need some help out there? Who
It's
needs some help?
11:01 and we are reconvening and we are into the public hearing agenda. And 3A, we have a resolution.
This is the second public hearing of this resolution, which I'll read by title only. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, approving the 2014 Community Development Block Grant Action Plan for the City of Punta Gorda and authorizing the city manager to sign and submit all documents required by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and provide an effective date.
Any questions before we open the public hearing? Okay, this is a public hearing. If you would like to speak on, what do we want to call this? The CDBG action plan? You may come to the podium, state your name. This is a public hearing. Anybody like to speak? Last call.
Move to close the public hearing. Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Move approval of the resolution on the CDBG action plan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve and adopt the CDB action plan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. We have another resolution.
Yes, this also is the second public hearing of a resolution, which I'll read by title only. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, approving an amendment to the 2013 Community Development Block Grant Action Plan for the City of Punta Gorda and authorizing the city manager to sign and submit all documents required by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and provide an effective date.
Any questions before we open the public hearing?
No.
Okay, this is a public hearing. If you'd like to speak on the 2013 CDBG Block Grant Action Plan for the City of Punta Gorda, please come to the podium, state your name. Public hearing. Anybody like to speak on this matter? Last call.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the public hearing and adopt the plan for 2013 CDBG. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, we do not have any quasi-judicial public hearings. And next we will move into ordinance resolution, no public hearings required. So in lieu of that, we have citizens' comments on those two items. Now would be the time to speak on the two ordinances that are on the agenda. Citizens' comments on these two items. Seeing none, now we will move into ZA 02-14.
Yes, this is the second reading of an ordinance, which will read by title only. An ordinance of the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, amending Chapter 26, Punta Gorda Code, known as the Land Development Regulations, to correct Scrivener's errors, amending Article 3, Regulating Districts, Section 3.13, SRO, Special Residential Overlay District, subsection N, Garbage Containers, Clothes Drying, and amending Article 8, Standards of General Applicability, Section 8.14, Structures and Uses Limited in Yards, subsection I, providing for a maximum permitted width for garbage can or equipment hide pads, providing for conflict and severability, and providing an effective date.
Anybody have any second thoughts about the garbage hide, widths, lengths?
No.
Move approval ZA 0214.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve and finally adopt ZA 0214. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried unanimously. Next, we have ZA 05-14.
Yes, this is the second reading of an ordinance, which I'll read by title only. An ordinance of the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, amending Chapter 9, Public Nuisances, Section 9-12, Appearance and Maintenance Standards, subsection I, Vacant Lots, Punta Gorda Code, to provide requirements regarding dead trees and dead vegetation. Amending Chapter 26, Land Development Regulations, Article 8, Standards of General Applicability, Section 8.11, Property Maintenance, subsection E, Punta Gorda Code, providing for the removal of dead trees and dead vegetation, providing for conflict and severability, and providing an effective date.
Any comments or questions?
No. Move approval of ZA-05-14.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ZA 05-14. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, next we have the consent agenda. First, I would like to ask, does anybody have anything to pull? Tom?
F1, please.
F1. which is a resolution with the DEP for the disbursement of the appropriation. So we will pull that out. F1. Anybody else have anything they would like to pull?
Move the remainder of the,
First, we got to have citizen comments.
oh, sorry.
Citizens' comments on consent agenda items. Now would be the time. Any citizens' comments? Okay, none.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda minus F1. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried unanimously. Tom?
In view of everything that's going on between the city and Swiftmud, I'm wondering if we might reconsider or the allocating the use of the $900,000 at this point for design and drawings for the RO plan, and maybe consider holding off for a time frame of maybe 30 to 60 days to see where we wind up in these discussions. Perhaps we may want to use that $900,000 for well field testing, since that would be the first article, or first part of the program that we would need to construct if we should ever decide to go ahead on our own.
Howard, do you have thoughts on that, or?
It is our intent that we use the $900,000 for design. Having said that, we were going to discuss the RO plant later on in the agenda. Because we have full intention that we are going to get that well field testing money. So we're not giving up. And I don't want to send a message to Swiftmud that we're giving up.
In terms of the agreement with the government for the $900,000, if we approve it today and we submit it, if there needs to be a change or a modification, we can still do that. Is that correct?
Well, they agreed to whatever we wanted it for. I mean, it's our choice.
Okay, so in other words, we can still move
We
forward
can-
on this?
Well, we can hold off, but I'm not saying switch it yet. I don't recommend, we as staff do not recommend that we switch it.
Agreed.
Don't hold off. Get the money
I
in the
agree.
bank.
Well, but we have the money.
I know.
DEP agreed to whatever we want to use the money for.
Sure.
If by some chance that we have to do the well field testing on our own, which we're fully moving forward on, if by some chance we have to, then yes, I think it would be appropriate that we then at that time switch it. But we work so easily with DEP at this point. If you want to say we approve this, we don't have to send it in right away. But if you want to say we approve this, and if by some chance we don't get the well field testing, then before we send it in, we revisit it and have discussions with DEP, that would be okay too.
But why would we have to do that if we can change it once we send it?
Well,
in?
you gotta get DEP to sign on.
Okay,
We can't unilaterally just change it.
okay.
But remember, they asked us what we wanted the money for.
Sure.
I'm only suggesting for a limited time frame, maybe 30, 60 days until we try and get this issue resolved. And because we may very well need the well field testing before we need the design.
Well,
We definitely do.
We do.
Well, we do.
Yeah, we do.
There's no question about it.
I think we should stay the course. I think this is the right thing to do.
Okay.
I mean, we can always discuss with DEP before we send it in, the ramifications of what would happen if we had to amend it. But this maximizes use of our money. We know why.
Well,
Right.
yes, okay.
And this shows the state supports this project. I mean,
Right.
we've got to keep that at the forefront, that the state is behind this, they're funding it, and we're moving forward. And,
I just wanted us to have the conversation.
okay,
Yeah, no, it's
I would
good.
agree with-
I mean, we have a plan of attack.
I would agree with you, Rachel. Stay the course. We need to stand strong and be firm. We're going to get what we want and need.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
agree.
so we have item F1.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to approve F1. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried unanimously.
We will have discussions with DEP regarding what we're doing.
Okay, moving into the regular agenda, we've already heard 6A, so we will have citizens' comments on regular agenda items only, which would be the event permit for Oktoberfest, the request by the Isle Yacht Club, and the board committee appointments. If anybody would like to comment on either one of those items, now would be the time. Would you like to comment? Come state your name.
My name is Maria von Atzigen. I'm representing the Downtown Merchant Association. As you all know, we have our yearly big annual Oktoberfest coming up, and we have planned that since 7 years. It will be the 7th time this year. It's a big success. When we started, nobody knew what a real Oktoberfest is spelled or looks like. But I must say, with the big support of everybody and surrounding areas, we were able to make that a big event for downtown. We are still planning to do that. The only thing came up this year, we do have another group. It is, they're gonna plan Profit Bavarian Bash. They don't use the word Oktoberfest because that's kind of locked in with us. But they do a Bavarian Bash. They gonna plan that just the weekend before our event. It will be, the Bavarian Bash will be the 26th, 27th, and 28th of September on the marketplace with a big tent and everything. And we are coming up just the weekend after, on the 4th of October. We do it on Saturday this time, following the farmers market with our annual Oktoberfest. Now, our problem is that, first of all, it is a little confusing for the public. I got already approached by numerous people. What's going on? Are you doing the Bavarian Bash, or where is who, you know? So in order to make that more clear, that we as a non-profit organization would like to pull that through on the Saturday, the 4th of October, we would like to ask to get a permit to have a banner, a generic Oktoberfest banner up where the farmers market is a week before, so we can kind of catch the people on the farmers market the week before our event, so they know it's still gonna happen. And of course we do some other advertising too, as you all know, but it is it would be another input in favor of our Oktoberfest. So I ask respectfully for your support to have that 1 week in advance, the banner put up instead of a night before as it is normally permitted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other citizens' comments on regular agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we will move into, we have no unfinished business, new business, which is the event permit for the Oktoberfest.
Good morning. For the record, Terry Tubbs, zoning official. The reason this item actually got put on under new business is that in keeping in mind with the request for the banner for 7 days in advance, that we have many events and festivals in the city, and a lot of the different event organizers also would like that opportunity. And I would like to maybe consider bringing this back at a future date so we can lay out specific criteria at what point would tip the scale that banners would just automatically be allowed in advance, the size of the banner, location of the banner, and that sort of thing. so that we can have a consistent regulation, because up till now, it hasn't really been consistent, and so I will be bringing this back.
Okay.
I have no problem with this. I think this is a good idea. We'd like to promote Oktoberfest and Bavarian Fest, so this would be, I think,
I'm
I
totally in
agree.
favor.
I'm in favor as well.
I'm fine.
Do we need to vote?
Yes.
Okay, we need a motion.
Approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the event permit for Oktoberfest. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously.
And I like Terry's idea as well, to come up
Yes.
with an idea, a way of making this
Right.
a standard.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Terry.
Okay, next we have request by the Isles Yacht Club to retain the temporary parking surface instead of sod.
For the record, Terry Tubbs, zoning official. This request has come forward as part of the ongoing long-term plan for the Isles Yacht Club. And as this is going to be developed over time, they have requested to retain that surface. Staff does not have the authority to approve that request, as the city code specifically outlines that that's council's purview. And staff does support the request since it is a temporary condition.
And they have modified it so that we're in compliance with our,
They have provided for additional sod at the driveway entrances. The entire perimeter of the area does have sod, so it provides for silt filtration in the events of heavy rains.
Tom?
Is there a time frame appropriate for this extension?
At this point in time, the Isles Yacht Club doesn't have a time specific. When it was discussed for the special exception use, they were looking at a minimum of 3 to 5 years before they would even be able to consider beginning anything. So at this point, I don't think there is a timeline that they have.
I would just maybe condition it that they maintain the current situation that they have right now, and I'm fine with it.
Me too.
I'm fine.
do you want to make a motion?
Sure. Make a motion that we approve the Al's request for the parking area.
With that, with your condition?
Yeah, and that they keep it in the condition that it is now.
Existing condition, okay?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the request by the Isles Yacht Club. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay. Recommendation from city officers. Howard, you're up.
The budget message typically would have gone out and put on our website and in the weekly. It will go out this Friday. The reason we held off is because we wanted to see what the discussion on Macedonia sidewalk was going to be. So now we can accurately reflect what the 1% sales tax will be, and that's a part of the budget message. So I didn't want to get it out there early and then have that sticking out there. So it'll go out this Friday.
Good.
Good idea.
Good idea.
Way to protect.
Glad to have that behind us.
Yeah, every now and then, every once a year, I have an idea.
I never knew sidewalks were so dangerous until this came up. I didn't know it. Didn't get
Well, as
that.
Howard has said, some things just are a challenge, but we learn from it.
City attorney,
Nothing further, thank you.
thank you. City clerk,
Thank you.
it's been
The
quiet.
first item I have is the request from the Florida League of Cities for each city to volunteer someone from their city, their council or their commission to serve on the legislative policy committees. And Vice Mayor Freeland actually had responded and said she thought that was a good idea, so
Not
this
for
is
me.
here for your discussion.
I thought it might be a good idea for us to consider having someone on it. However, as I see, they want you to rank them, and my perspective is that I think if we were going to participate, we should only participate on those committees that we feel would be critical for our city. So I don't know, Rachel, you have been participating in this, if this is something that you're willing to do and take on. My suggestion would be, I guess the first choice would be finance, taxation, and personnel, since it deals with home rule, local option revenues, pension issues, and tax and budget reform. but that would be up to you. The other one, obviously, is the first one, energy, environmental, and natural, and of course, water management is under that. But the others, I think we're pretty well have under control, so.
I think the first one, energy, environmental, and natural resources, would be my first choice.
Okay.
And maybe the one that you said, the finance taxation, would be number 2. And
Okay.
other than that, I mean, transportation infrastructure, we really don't. So
We don't have that.
I could talk to them and see if I could secure one of those 2, preferably, in my eyes, the first one.
That's fine.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
The deadline for submitting your registration or your, to sign up is the 16th. So, and you can put 1 and 2 as your first and second choice and not put 3, 4, 5,
Okay.
I would think. But we just want to make sure that if you are considering it, that we do it on time.
Yeah, okay.
I would agree that those are of a high priority. I probably would agree with Carolyn on the finance and the pension and those kinds of issues that I think are things we're not really looking at, but can we should be looking at. So either way, important issues. Thank you for being willing to do that.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree.
So Mayor, will you submit the form or would you want me to do that for you?
I'll probably
or-
just go ahead and email her today and see what, if she wants the form, we can certainly scan it in and send it to her.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
I would also say third place would be growth management.
Okay, and then under boards and committees, we have some vacancies. 2 alternate seats on the Historic Preservation Advisory Board. We have a continuing vacancy as an alternate on the Code Enforcement Board, but I did get someone today who is willing to serve, so that one will be filled shortly.
Nice.
We have 1 regular seat on the Board of Zoning Appeals. And then under nominations, we have 2 seats on the Building Board with 2 applicants who are eligible for nomination. Since we have 2 seats and 2 applicants, if you would like to nominate and appoint today, you can do that.
Nominate and appoint.
Second.
So we don't have to vote, we just need the nomination in the second?
Actually, this will be a motion since we're
Okay.
appointing.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second, to nominate and appoint these 2 members to the building board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Okay, we have 1 unexpired term as an alternate on the Planning Commission. We have 1 eligible applicant. So again, if you would like to nominate and appoint, we'll need a motion.
Nominate, appoint.
Second.
We have a motion to nominate and appoint Mr. Council as the Planning Commission alternate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Thank you, and that's all I have.
Thank you. We're getting there. Okay, under policy and legislation, the only thing that I have is that we are 4 of us are attending the Florida League of Cities Conference starting this evening. So we are going to miss some of the Hurricane Charlie goings-on, but this was previously already scheduled, so we didn't realize we would have that conflict. But Kim will be at the dedication tonight at Hurricane Charlie's. They're dedicating their dining room.
Yes, and the giving a proclamation for Jim Reed.
Nice, very nice.
Very nice. Very nice indeed.
So we hope to have some good news coming back from the conference. It's a very active, busy conference. Howard will be going into a meeting with the FEMA consortium group of other cities that are dealing with our obligations with FEMA. And Howard and I are both going to be on Comcast Newsmakers on Friday, so we'll have clips. They'll give us a link to the clip once they're produced. We'll have those videos.
Very nice.
And I'm going to be speaking about the pathways and the bicycle friendliness and the loaner program and the amenities we have. And Howard's going to be talking about events and downtown festivals and events.
Is that a regular session that we can all attend?
No. It's a
Oh.
it's a one-on-one, like,
Oh,
interview
okay,
deal.
okay.
Yes, yep. Okay, that's all I have, so we'll go council member comments. Nancy?
I have two things. One is, you all received this field guide, and this was done by the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council. They got a $25,000 grant from the Department of Economic Opportunity and used that then to develop a guide and mapping of all of the art, public art places in Lee County. A similar grant was applied for through the city of Punta Gorda to do that for Charlotte County. The overall intent of this is to get ready for the major grant that we had applied for to the is it NEA, the National Endowment of the Arts, a large grant that was for the 6-county area, and to develop an app so that you can use your smartphone and find public art. So this was what had been worked up, and this is what was distributed at the last Regional Planning Council meeting, and I just wanted you to have a copy of this. I grabbed some copies so you could see what they had done. I know Kim had talked to me and said that you can't find this anywhere online. You can't search for it. So that's something I need to take back to them to say, this needs to be searchable somehow so we can find it if we're going to use these as tools to help promote our communities. So if you have any other feedback, let me know.
Okay.
Secondly, then Carolyn and I went to a meeting yesterday afternoon that we were all invited to, and that was up in Lakewood Ranch, and it was a speaker, Rich Harwood, and it was an event put on by the Patterson Foundation. And Rich Harwood is has a consulting firm, and he has a program that's called, they have, actually the Patterson Foundation calls it the Aspirations to Actions. And so I took some notes, and I'll just give you a little summary. What they're trying to do is get communities to embrace their possibilities. And as I read the pre-meeting, I kept saying, this feels like Punta Gorda is the poster child. And I went online and I called Mr. Harwood's office, but he didn't return the phone call. Carolyn and I talked with him afterwards, and so he took our business cards. And Nancy Johnson was with us from Team Punta Gorda. And he actually mentioned Hurricane Charlie in his comments, but he said, will we turn outward toward our communities we serve, or will we turn inward and serve our own self-interests? And I think in this community it's been very much the first of those. And he said in this whole program that the Patterson Foundation is doing in trying to train people to be innovators, they wanted to focus on 3 things. Focus on shared aspirations and how to get there, that we're going to have to do more work together, and we're going to have to pay attention to the stories we tell about ourselves, and that our collective strength and resilience will be an example to ourselves and others. And the question he asked is, will we blaze a new path because we're builders? And so we just kept going, you're preaching to the choir here. So it was a very good session for affirming what we have done and achieved over the last 10 years and the kinds of things we do here in Punta Gorda. We didn't learn as much as we got more affirmation out of it. So there is an Innovator Workshop that he does. He teaches people, and that started today. And the Charlotte Community Foundation is represented there along with a few other people from Charlotte County to, I think, learn to be innovators. And so that's what he's trying to teach around the country, is people to be innovators and help come up with the solutions that we need to drive our country forward, as opposed to sitting back and waiting for others to do it for us. So that was what we did.
Kim?
I met with the One Community, One Message group, and kind of came up with where do we go from here? We have the brochure, it's being distributed, and one of the, along with our website, and then of course the billboards is something that we thought was very important. But the name One Community, One Message really means, you know, bringing the community together and getting the chambers and getting the downtown merchants and everyone marketing the same. And as we talked about that, I really don't have the time to commit to that. I'm really taking a strong role in the drug-free Punta Gorda. It's a new and starting up the D5 program here. And so I've asked Nancy if she would take my place in the One Community, One Message, if that's okay with everyone.
As long as
Since
Nancy's
she was
willing.
there before.
Sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Glad to
Thank
do
you
it.
for all your
Thank
hard
you.
work on that,
You're
Kim.
welcome.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
You're welcome.
We've
You're
gotten,
welcome.
I just have to tell you that I have a friend from Key West. In an email, he said, well, since you've got on council, he says, I hear so much more about Punta Gorda.
I know.
Well, it's not just me.
You should have taken all the credit.
Yeah,
Well, it's not just
absolutely.
me,
Yeah.
but, you know, but you all have done a fabulous job.
And
Thank
I
you.
will continue to want to call on Kim as a supporting cast member, so to speak, 'cause that's the kind of thing that we do, is just help out where you're needed.
Tom?
I'd like to defer to Carolyn if I could. I'll be back.
Okay, Carolyn?
You all received from me a draft resolution with regards to Swift Mud. Based on the behavior of the governing board of Swift Mud, which I perceive as both arbitrary and capricious toward the city of Punta Gorda, I agree with the rest of you in terms of your statements that we need to stay the course and really push on in terms of what we believe in. And this resolution basically reviews that obviously we've gotten the $900,000 from the state. We've requested funding for our project through Swift Mud, 50% of the project, which is about $14 million. It also states that on June 24th, Swift Mud voted to provide us with 50% of the cost for the testing phase, but did not approve the final funding for it until after that testing phase. But then in the next situation, as we all know, that they have now tied us to the interconnect, that they will not fund our testing phase until an interconnect is approved or starts to move forward. They are obviously very concerned that this interconnect be constructed, even though we have no authority over the water authority to do that, or even over Charlotte County. I'm proposing that we discuss this resolution and then perhaps put it on a future agenda. Basically, that we would provide our consent to allow construction and connection of the pipeline within the jurisdiction of Punta Gorda, contingent upon Swift Mud providing the requested funding for our RO plant. At such time that Swift Mud enters into a cooperative funding agreement providing 50% of the cost of the testing phase for the reverse osmosis project totaling $1.5 million, the city will then engage in further collaboration with the authority on feasibility assessments for the pipeline, including the sharing of the test costs. And then at such time that Swift Mud enters into a cooperative funding agreement providing 50% of the remaining cost of our RO plant, again approximately $14 million, will we consent to the construction and connection of a pipeline to our jurisdiction and into our plant. And then also that we would direct then our city manager to request that Charlotte County also express its support for the pipeline, again contingent upon Swift Mud's entering into the cooperative funding agreement to fund our RO project. Now I know that our staff is in conversation with the Water Authority staff to come up with a memorandum of understanding to move forward on what it might look like for our participation with the interconnect. However, I also understand that Mr. Babb, who is the current chairman of Swift Mud, is unsure what his governing board will do. And based on their past actions, I do not have faith that they will approve any memorandum of understanding. So therefore, I would like for us to further discuss this and perhaps also then ask our city manager to continue moving forward on the memorandum of understanding. But should it come to a point where there's going to be an impasse, I would say that this definitely needs to be voted on. Unless, and I would like, my idea was to put a timeline on it and say either we could do, October 15th, November 1st, that they approve our funding for the test phase. I was urged perhaps by our lobbyists that we might not want to do that, might not want to put a timeline on it. But I am concerned that that SwiftMud has been dragging its feet, that we are now being pushed again to wait to start our project. So I'm not sure if you would want to put a timeline on it or not. But I do think that we want to give our staff some time to try to work through the memorandum of understanding.
What does that timeline look like, Howard?
The Water Authority is putting together some bullet points for a memorandum of understanding. County administrator is going on vacation latter part of August. So we're looking at probably early part of September till we can meet. But this takes time.
Yes.
I don't know if we're going to do it all in one meeting because we're different.
And then it has to go to the Water Authority Board for approval on their side,
Well, it's got to come to City Council.
right?
It's got to come to the County Commission. And if City Council and the County Commission do not like the components of that memorandum of understanding, there ain't going to be an interconnect. Simple as that.
Well, I think the resolution says what we want it to say, and I think at that time, at that point in time, after the memorandum of understanding, if we think it's dead, that's dead, then that would be the time to pull the trigger on something like this. That's my feeling. Tom?
I would certainly support such a resolution. The city has made it clear to SwiftMud that we would support the Phase 1 pipeline connection to our plant in the past. For them to be holding us hostage to our legitimate entitlement of collaborative funding for this project, which has received the support of the governor and the state legislature, is reprehensible. Whomever has oversight over this board should be made aware of these irresponsible actions. The rationale of building this pipeline now for the sole purpose of the Water Authority to sell water to the Punta Gorda is flawed. It does not solve the issues related to our drinking water, and it further keeps us dependent on surface water as our only source of potable water. I'm sure that many of you are aware of the results of contaminated drinking water in Toledo, Ohio, as a result of toxic algae bloom. Over 400,000 homes were without water for 3 days. A needs assessment should be made as to the timing of an additional pipeline. In my opinion, that time is not now when the Water Authority is utilizing but a little over half of their capacity. To place the burden of the cost to construct and maintain such a project on Charlotte County utility customers and other members of the utility years before it might be needed is irresponsible on the part of the Water Authority and SwiftMud.
I agree.
I totally agree, and I think that we need to call upon our legislators and others in the state government to examine this.
And we're on that track, but they got called back to a special session. But we did meet with Ken Roberson, and we are working those angles, and that's why I was thinking that if I was on this legislative committee, that Energy and Environmental Resources, at least I could tell our story, at least be telling our story to everyone about this struggle that we're going to, and it's going from bad to worse, and it does take time, and they will have to undo the action that they just previously did. But definitely they're trying to make us buy water from the Water Authority. I mean, that's the purpose of the pipeline. And not only that, what concerns me is kind of what you alluded to in your letter, is that it's going to cost our utility ratepayers money as well, because we have to keep that thing functioning and fresh, and we have to flush clean water through it on our end as well. So it's going to cost our ratepayers money in the end. It's Even if it was 100% funded by SwiftMud, it's still going to cost our ratepayers. And how would we ever go about signing a contract for something that we don't even know what the consequence would be to our ratepayers? That would be a total injustice to our city and our people. So we don't even know the cost of the pipeline. We don't even know what the cost of the maintenance and to keep this thing functioning will be to our end people. So I feel like a little bit of progress was made last week. I don't think I really want to show up at any more SwiftMud meetings until we know that they're ready to give us the well field testing money and let it run its course for now.
I would not trust them with the water of our city for anything. They have not proven to be trustworthy. They have said they're going to do things. They've changed it at every single meeting. And putting our water in their hands, to me, is not an option.
We've been totally rebuffed. And, I mean, what they did to us at their last meeting was absolutely the most discourteous thing I can think of. And they may have felt like they won a battle, but I just don't feel that they're going to win the whole thing. We're going to prevail on
Well, I
this.
think they won the battle on one side, on one side of the fight.
I guess
I like your resolution.
I agree with Kim. I really don't trust them. And I think even if they provide us funding for the well field testing because they're feeling that they're, put over a barrel to do that, I think they're going to put other things in our way, want us to pay for water for a number of years, and I really have a problem with it.
I have a problem
Almost
with
at
that
this point in
board.
time, I would say, let's reject the interconnect, let's just move forward. But I know that that's, again,
I know.
biting our nose off to spite our faces, so we don't want to do that. But I'm very much concerned. The fact that they want an interconnect to our, pardon?
To our plant.
To our plant, to our Shell Creek plant, is bad policy. And yet they keep talking about regionalization, they keep talking about the importance of this interconnect for us sharing water, when, as I thought your statement was very well said, Tom, that, this is not needed. It's not needed at this time, and it's bad policy, and yet they keep pushing forward.
Howard?
Everybody all
So
worked up?
yours.
All worked up.
No,
The last part of our conversation on Friday's meeting was the SwiftMud and the Water Authority put out the proposal that they would sell water to the city of Punta Gorda at a discounted rate for 10 years. We said no. Our response was, it takes about 2 years to do well field testing and permitting approximately. And it would probably take about 2 years to upgrade the design, bid, and construct a pipeline. Doesn't take that long. It then is going to take us probably another 3 years to build and open up the RO plant. We always thought about it as a 5-year project. So there's 3 years that if the Water Authority wants to sell us water at a discounted rate, that, yeah, we would consider that for 3 years until our RO plant gets up and operational.
Would this mean that we would be laying off staff?
No,
Okay.
no, that's all
Okay.
part of the economics.
Okay,
I mean,
thank
do we
you.
need the water?
Do we need the water? We would only need it when our TDS is over the
Okay,
500.
right, okay.
If we want to try and meet it immediately, that regulation. So no, we wouldn't need it all the time.
Okay.
But we would, and we don't know what amount we would purchase. And the economics would have to work out. And they would have to show us that. That's where we ended the meeting, along with, instead of a construction agreement, we would need a memorandum of understanding. And the memorandum of understanding would include all of those components. Now, we're pretty far apart. But at least we got some movement, so they know what our thoughts are. And that's what we're going to meet over the next few weeks to try and iron out some of those details. But they need to show us the economics of how it would work. And that's all we were willing to consider.
I don't trust them. If they say they're going to sell us something for one price, I don't believe that I don't trust them at all. They've changed their mind every single time. Not one time did they stay the course. They changed their mind at every meeting. So why would I think they're going to do something different?
We would have to have it in writing, approved in a contract, that this is what it's going to be for a very small designated time frame. That's the
And
only way
even though we have a memorandum of understanding with the Water Authority, it does not mean that Swift Mud will go along with it.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
And that's the part
Right.
that I am.
And basically, that's part of our story as well to the state, is that the purpose of being regional, the basic definition of that is buy water from the Water Authority. That's the definition of being regional, because that's the only thing that they're basically holding us to now, is that we've got to work out a water purchase agreement with the Water Authority.
Or they have to work out an agreement to purchase our RO water if they need it. Because
Then I think then we should incorporate that into the memorandum of understanding.
well, we
I
had it the
agree.
last time,
Okay.
back in 2006 or 7, whenever we were.
They need to build their trust somehow. I don't even know how that would be possible, the way I feel. I
And
mean,
from there?
I just wouldn't, I just can't even imagine giving them any type of control over our water.
Well, at the last meeting, it was stated to them, meaning when I say them, Swiftmud, the board chair and the director and the executive director, deputy director, that at the last meeting of July 21st,
During our break,
whatever goodwill was left, whatever positive working relationship was left with city council,
Gone.
it was gone. It was thrown away. And that it's going to be up to them to bring it back. Whether they choose to do that or not is up to them.
I mean, I just fear things like them saying at some point, if we agree to that, well, okay, this is what we're gonna sell water for you, or to you for, and then, oh, some crisis comes up and they double or triple or quadruple it, and our citizens, and there's nothing we can do about
Well,
it.
but our city attorney here is going to make sure that whatever, if we get to that
I
point,
know, but
and
you
if
know
we
how
can
it
get
is.
a contract, and if we agree on all of that,
Right.
that it will be,
There's always a loophole, especially with people like that.
Based on what
Nancy.
you said, Howard, I'm with Kim. I have no visible proof that any of them have any degree of comprehension that there's a problem. I think that they feel like it's their call, their shot, and they are dictators, and we just have to abide by whatever they want. And
and it's taxation without representation.
Absolutely.
absolutely.
well, that was brought up as well, but can we at least? the
We
county-
can go down the memorandum of understanding road, but I agree with Carolyn. There's no guarantee that we get all the way down that road and we show up, or say we don't show up, but that is on their agenda. We've seen the way they operate. They make motions before they've even had any discussion. They have speaker cards that they don't even acknowledge until they've set something up to happen. I mean, the whole thing is the whole board operation,
It's dysfunctional.
it's very hard to work within. And not only that, this last meeting, they could have said memorandum of understanding, but they did not. They said necessary contracts, which somebody said water purchase agreement. So,
That's what it is.
yes. So they want us bound to buy water from the Water Authority. That's their definition of multi-jurisdictional and regional, if we're buying water from the Water Authority.
You're right.
You have
That
the
is it.
patience of Job. Carry on.
And where I was going before with what Tom said about the utility ratepayers having to pay to maintain and operate this thing,
years before it's needed.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
Right.
that could be, it could be the same, we may have to raise our rates for the same amount that we could have just built the plant on our own, and then when they need it, it'll cost them the 28 million to get it back.
Howard, is there a possibility that somebody from Swift Mud would participate in this memorandum of understanding process?
Yes, yeah. Brian Armstrong, who was the deputy director, he would sit in on the meetings.
Yeah, but when it goes back to his board, I mean a board member, is that?
This meeting
Staff.
Yeah, right now, I think it probably should be a staff effort, but I really have no confidence in the governing board itself.
Well, see, at one time,
Either one of them,
I think
by the way.
there's intervention needed from a higher authority.
Yes,
Is the only way it's going to get resolved.
yes, I agree.
The governor, that's who they report to.
That's, yep.
I'm talking about
They don't even
Swiftmont.
report to him.
DEP, they report to
No,
DEP.
they don't report to
They're
him.
appointed by the governor, but they
Okay.
don't report.
Okay.
city attorney's going to look into some of the background on that.
Thank you.
He is indeed.
Thank you.
And I don't know when the discussion would be ripe to,
He's going to look into.
no, this is another topic, to really investigate why our TDS is so high
Oh.
in our surface water.
We have a theory.
It's coming from
We haven't been
the,
able,
coming from the water authority, they're putting stuff in our water.
no. No, it's the agricultural and the farms program.
Right, and it's
Well, that's
all
part of
online.
Swift Mud.
Yes, it is, and we have a theory, but if you asked our utility director, he'd have a tough time proving it.
Do we,
But it's in writing
Yeah,
online, you can read.
Years ago,
about
it was in writing,
Right,
yeah.
well, it's still online.
well,
you
maybe
know,
there
nothing
should
ever
be a
leaves.
future discussion about researching if the theory is correct or not, getting some real scientific proof.
All good ideas. Can't disagree with any of them. They're all. So, what I'm hearing is that the county administrator, city manager, water authority director, and the Swift Mud staff person will, over the next few weeks, hopefully get together, see if we can get moving on a memorandum of understanding, even though we don't know if Swift Mud will approve it.
We don't. But
We
now
don't.
they have the clear message that Charlotte County and City of Punta Gorda are linked together, correct?
Very clear message.
Very clear message.
They don't
We
get
stand
any-
as one.
If we don't agree, when I say we, if the county and the city aren't in sync and don't agree with the components of that memorandum of understanding, they don't get an interconnect.
Okay, I think that was Tom's comment. Where are we? Are you done with your comments?
I'm done.
Okay. Now we are moving into
Should we-
citizens' comments.
Should we at least have a resolution drafted?
Please.
And ready to
Yes.
go?
Yes,
with-
Please.
yes. Draft a
Do we want
resolution.
to put a timeline on it? That was my question.
I think I would prefer, let's have it, kind of keep it
Come
in the
back
drawer.
and perhaps maybe at that point in time, put a time limit.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry's has given us good advice, I think, that. we
Yes, I think we should at least let this memorandum of understanding
Okay.
sink in, that this is the direction that we're going, and that, see what kind of reception it gets. See if we can even get to one.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
See if we can even get to.
should. Right.
Okay.
I mean, I think we're all pretty clear how we feel.
Okay.
It's not, nobody's wishy-washy.
Darn right.
Citizens' comments, would anybody like to come to the podium? Come on, we need to get to
Come on,
noon.
talk about the
We need
RO
a
plan.
Couple minutes more. Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned.